Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me again today on the My Bourbon Journey Whiskey Review channel. So today, this was kind of inspired by a lot of my recently rye drinking, episodes or whatever you want to call it. And I get asked quite a bit, as do a lot of other guys and ladies, what are some of your favorite, whiskeys, whether it's bourbon, rye, whatever it may be. And I got to thinking, about maybe 5 must-have rye whiskeys. And this is kind of what came back to my mind in terms of what I go to quite a bit, what I've experienced. And again, this is outside of the things along the lines of, Old Carter or Foregate, whatever it may be, the higher end, Kentucky Owl, anything Master's Keep, any of that kind of stuff. This is going to be 5 just about everyday or readily available rye whiskeys. And for the most part, I think just about anybody can find these 5 rye whiskeys. So I wanted to put a video together that kind of encompassed my list of what I think of as 5 must-have ryes. And this is what we have. And again, today, this will be in no particular order. Again, the nosing and tasting and all of that, again, is very subjective. But, overall, I wanted to put a list together of what I think would be 5 ryes that if you were going to go out today and make that purchase, this is what I would probably start with just from an everyday rye standpoint. So why don't we highlight a few of these? We'll go over a little bit of what each one of them has to offer. And if I've done an individual review, I'll have those linked above so you can get a little bit more detail as to the particular rye whiskey specifically. So why don't we first start with the tried and true, the Russell's Reserve single barrel. That comes in at 104 proof. Now, from Russell's standpoint, that drinks for me a little bit more along the lines of a rye drinker's rye. It's a little more heavy on the black peppers, the leathers, the tobaccos, things along those lines, with a little bit of that underlying sweetness. So it by itself, again, is a fantastic rye whiskey, as all of these are. So again, your list, my list, they're gonna differ. So this isn't the end all be all of, the only 5 whiskeys to have. This was just my thought of putting together a list of 5 great rye whiskeys that I feel that people should have, at their house at any given time in terms of what it is that each one has to offer, whether it's sipping or for cocktails. And all of these can be used either as a sipper or cocktail whiskey. So there you have it. That's the Russell's Reserve single barrel. And again, with the single barrel, they will change or have maybe a slightly different profile because they are single barrels. Now we move on to, and again, no particular order. I'm not ranking them 1 through 5. You can treat these however you want. Again, these are just 5 rye whiskeys that I feel that, are a must-have. Pikesville. Pikesville for me is a must-have. It offers a tremendous value at around $55. It's available in most places. Just about everywhere I've gone, you somewhere along the way will run into Pikesville. It's a Heaven Hill product. Their distribution is all over the place. So you should be able to find Pikesville. Again, this is going to be a barely legal rye with a mash bill, of rye starting with 51%. So if I've done the review of it individually, I'll have that linked above as well. So what does Pikesville kind of have to offer? Pikesville for me is leans a little bit more towards the sweeter side. Some of those like candied mints, a little bit of the oak profile, but definitely on the sweeter side. At 110 proof, it's a great sipper. It's a really nice aged a minimum of 6 years. Fantastic profile that the Pikesville rye has to offer. Now as we move into something a little bit different. So the Old Forester rye. So this is slightly different. And again, recently I did a blind flight and this finished number 2 within basically kind of this group, so to speak. And what it had to offer, again, this is high malted barley. So this is going to be a very unique rye whiskey, and one that offers at its price point of around $30 or so for a liter. Again, it's a great value rye whiskey. It not only is it great as a sipper, and I think just itself in terms of its profile offers an awful lot, but in cocktails, it offers a unique flavor profile. So it's very good from that standpoint. But again, very high or higher on the malted barley side of things. And again, a barely legal rye starting with 51% rye whiskey, but again, higher malted barley than really any of these that are going to be here in front of you right now. So again, it's a great rye whiskey. You know, this one offers much more of those like kind of chocolatey, malty notes, definitely some nice mints. But one thing that was for me that was heavy on this was the chocolate influence. And for whatever reason, it just kind of presented itself that way. But it's so unique that it stands out in a very good way. So I would not hesitate if you've, thought about, buying the Old Forester rye. It again has really gotten out in terms of the production and the distribution of that. So you should be able to go to just about any liquor store and find the Old Forester rye whiskey. And again, if I've done the individual review, I'll have that linked above for you to check out everything that it has to offer. Now we're getting into a couple of definitely different, but again, in their own right, fantastic rye whiskeys. Now from Wilderness Trail, this is their barrel proof rye. This rye whiskey for me, Wilderness Trail is one of those distilleries that I still think flies a little bit too much under the radar. They don't get nearly the pub that some of the other distilleries do. I don't know exactly why that is, but what they're doing, not only with their bourbons, but specifically their rye whiskeys, is absolutely incredible. So if you've thought or considered about, buying a rye from Wilderness Trail, just do it. Don't hesitate. They are really incredible rye whiskeys that they do there. Dr. Patrick Heist, genius. And what they're doing there, again, is really shining in the product that they're putting together. And this barrel proof rye whiskey says all of that. Now, with what they do here, so I believe this is a slightly higher in the mid to upper 50s rye content. So slightly higher than all of the others so far. But with what you get kind of in the Wilderness Trail picks is heavier mint. So if you're a fan of that mint aspect in a rye whiskey with all of the complexity, still some of those sweetness, that candied fruit aspect, that's kind of what Wilderness Trail has to offer. And again, I'll have it linked above in the event that you're looking for a specific review of the Wilderness Trail. Again, hands down, fantastic rye whiskey. One that I would 100% recommend to really anybody. So again, this is specifically the Wilderness Trail barrel proof rye whiskey. Now, last but definitely not least, tried and true Wild Turkey 101 comes in again, obviously 101 proof, 1 liter bottle at around that $25, $30 price point. It is a great value rye. It offers a lot from the standpoint of not only can you really use it as sipping rye whiskey, but it's incredible for cocktails. And that 101 proof, perfect proof for a cocktail. But in terms of what it is that Wild Turkey has to offer, and again, we have Russell's, which again is a Wild Turkey product. Wild Turkey 101, it's just tried and true. I mean, they've been producing this for years and years, and that profile that it has, again, it's a barely legal rye whiskey, 101 proof. It's very approachable. This is probably one of those ryes that I wouldn't have a problem wanting to give to somebody who's maybe just looking to get into rye whiskey. I think it offers just enough and then not too much to dominate from the rye standpoint. So what Wild Turkey 101 has to offer, again, you definitely get some of that rye that's there, much more sweetness. This is probably a little bit sweeter, in lines with maybe the Pikesville, not quite as sweet, I would say. Definitely a little bit less sweet than the Old Forester, and slightly different with this. I mean, this is a little bit more of a barrel-proof rye, but again, for what it is that Wild Turkey is producing, it's tried and true and is an absolute home run of a rye whiskey. So there you have it. In terms of my list of 5 must-have rye whiskeys, I would say all of these need to be at your house at any given time for whatever the circumstances it is that may arise, whether you're just into sipping rye whiskeys and making cocktails, whatever it is, but you cannot go wrong with any of these. Now, I limited it to 5. You could maybe throw in, again, the honorable mention, the rare breed rye. It's a little bit more difficult to find, but again, it's another fantastic Wild Turkey. And Wild Turkey is absolutely killing it out there. So there you have it. This is my must-have at the moment, must-have 5 rye whiskeys, and you cannot go wrong with any one of these. So definitely leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree to these 5, and are you okay with this list? If not, what would you interchange? What would you eliminate? Whatever it may be. I love to hear people's feedback as to what it is that you're enjoying. That's the fun part of it for me, is wanting to know what it is that you enjoy and why, and maybe what your 5 must-have ryes would be. Again, these are 5 just about everyday type of rye whiskeys that people can find for the most part. And there you have it. So again, leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on that. So want to say thank you so much for tuning into another one of my reviews. Greatly appreciate that. If you'd like to follow me, you can on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those places at My Bourbon Journey. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can through my Patreon page, which I'll have linked in the description below. In addition, that also allows you to become part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club, where Jason from the Mash and Drum and I teamed up to create a whiskey club. We do a lot of picks, get things out to our patrons only. So make sure you consider, becoming a patron and, part of the Mash and Journey Whiskey Club. So again, thank you so much for tuning into another one of my reviews. Hopefully this helps you a little bit. If you were looking for, general ideas of, maybe where to start with 5 rye whiskeys, I would say you can't go wrong here. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, it's about the journey and not the destination. Cheers.